Do you understand why we have city outside now? All right, so we can continue. Now, this is everything that we're going to be needing. So now have what? So now we'll go ahead and create our function now. And in that function, we're going to have a parameter. So we're going to say const check weather. So we have what? Check weather, right? Equals to what? So we're going to have a parameter that says city. Then after the city, we're not going to have our arrow function. Then we're not going to have this. Now, after that, we need to also get a response from where? From the API. We need to fetch the API, isn't it? Our parameter and our parameter. Not even when I explained the string calculation. Yeah. So we have city. Now, our response, we need to get our response from the API. So I cannot say const rest, right? Equals to what? So we can have what? Fetch from that particular API. Now we can have what? API URL, right? Plus what? City, right? Plus, then we can have what? And the app ID. So I'm using backticks for that. Now, one thing about open weather is that whenever you want to add new parameters, you have to use what? And. Let me show you what I'm saying. Now, if you check this place out, when I want to add unit or matrix, after matrix, I use what? And. Before I move to what? Q. After I added my Q for my city name, I added what? And for my app ID to get my what? My API URL. You understand? So my API key. So you always have to use and. So now, for me to add and, I cannot put and as what's the name? As a normal string. I have to use what? Backticks. So add what is it? And. So I cannot what? Use and what? Have app ID, right? Equals to then can have my what? My $sign. Then I'm going to have my what? My API key. Now the API key that I stored right here. This API key now. So now I've called it out here. Now this is everything about my what? My API. But first of all, say yes, my app ID is my API key. Now app ID is important. App ID is very important. Like that's the way you can call API. It's where you have to your app ID. That's why I showed us here. I showed us in this place. You always have to have an app ID. When I remove it to my initial API, I can as well just say, I can as well just come here and say Q, right? And I cannot say and app ID equals to what? Then I can have my what? My API key. Sorry, I don't need to put this. I can just go ahead and put my API key in this place. Control C, and I can paste it here. Right? And I can remove this because I don't need it again. And I can also remove this. So this is all I'll just put what? App URL plus what? But I feel like it's looking too bulky here. That's why I had to like break it down. So I'm going to have my API key first. And again, your API key most of the time will not be like this. It will be wrapped up in an environmental variable that automatically masks your API key. Now, your API key, like I said, is not something you want to review. If you push this to GitHub now, people will have access to your app. You have access to your API key. And like that, they can hack your application. You understand? So you don't want to push it down because of we've not gone into some what's the name? Some detailed framework, right? We're not going to go into the masking data API, but if you want to understand, I can reach out to me personally later. So we can talk about .env file and I can explain that. But for now, I'm not going to go ahead and work. As you can see app like this. It's still the same thing. You understand? It's the same thing to this. Right? But I'm just going to go ahead and leave it this way. I'm not going to include my app ID there. So as you can see, we have what API URL, city and what app ID. Is it clear to us? Is it clear? Is it clear to you? Now, in this case, but first of all, right, we are fetching data. If you are fetching data, what does that mean? You have to make this function asynchronous. You know why? You know why I'm making it asynchronous? What's asynchronous? What's asynchronous program? When we're doing JavaScript, when we're doing Firebase, why was it that when we're trying to fetch data from Firebase, we're using .10? Are we here? Why did you use .10 in Firebase? Is that? I did use .10 in Saxamo. I don't even think you're here for most of the Firebase. Why did you use .10? Sorry, why did you use .10? Why did you use .10 in Firebase? Why did you use .10 when we're trying to fetch data? Why are we using our asynchronous function? Why are we not just taking it from here? I guess. You are using fetch. If you want to fetch water, what will you do? Let's give the normal, the modern tap. Let's use floating things. You want to fetch water from where? What will you do? Use the fetching pay, right? Or the fetcher. Throw it inside. Did it just magically fetch water? No. It follows the process. Before you fetch water, you have to dip your pin inside of the well. And then you fetch out. Now the fetching is waiting for certain things to happen. Which is what? First of all, throw your fetcher into the well. Do you understand? That's an asynchronous function. Asynchronous function is saying that you have to first of all do something before I can fetch it. You understand? What you have to do is that you have to first of all await this particular fetch. You have to wait for what every particular data to be fetched first before you can now go ahead and fetch this data into your application. That's why this one has to be an asynchronous function. You understand? That's why we're making it async and await. So this function is asynchronous, right? For us to be able to do anything, we need to await this particular data to be fetched before any other function that comes under here works. Do you understand? Do you understand? No. Do you understand? Tell me no, please. You understand fetching, but you don't understand async and await. One person. Do you understand it? Do you understand it? Do you understand? Do you understand it? I will explain it again. So you want to have multiple functions in your application. Having those functions in your application, they depend on one thing, which is to what? Which is the data they are fetching from where OpenWeather API. Now, OpenWeather API will not just magically appear. It has to be fetched into your application, right? Right? Now, for it to be fetched into your application, how will it work? You need to make it an asynchronous function so that all of these functions that are under here, they will not just run. They have to wait for the data to fetch first. That's why I'm saying await. These data that are here, they cannot automatically work. They need to wait for what? This particular data to be fetched before they work. Because if you do not wait for this data to fetch, JavaScript will automatically run. So if it runs and data does not fetch, you will not get your data. So asynchronous functions sometimes they delay. JavaScript synchronous functions, they will not run once in a split second. But sometimes asynchronous functions, they will delay because sometimes network, sometimes your system is probably lacking. So they will delay. So you need to make sure that you have a function that is that delay. You understand? So you need to delay to make sure that okay, your function will not work until this particular what data that we are waiting for is fetched. That's like I say, you are waiting for this data to be fetched for this asynchronous function to be called. Is it clear to you now? That's why we're having what async and await. In other case, we have dot then. We have what the function. Then after we fetch, we have what dot then. Remember, in Firebase. But now, saying that I don't want to use dot then, I want to use async and await for you to understand. This is the best way to use to call such a function. Is it clear? Is it clear? So we can move on now. Now, we fetched it. It was async and await. Now, what do we want? We want to have what? The response from JSON. So we can go ahead and say what? First of all, we need to get out the error, but I'm just going to have my if block first. So if this, let us just go ahead and have our else. Now, let's have our if. Now, if this particular response, right? If the status is saying that, first of all, let me explain what it means. In JavaScript, in programming generally, we have some errors, right? Error code. We have 404. We have 200. Remember, you know. Now, 404 means what? Not found. 200 means what? Success. That means the API was able to get and you were able to find it, what you're looking for. Now, what we now want to do is to make sure that if you search for a city that's not in the database, that is not in open weather database, you should have a function, you should have an error returned. Is it clear? Is it clear? What we want to do now, if you try to search for something that is not in the database or that open weather does not have. So for instance, open weather does not have AKT state right now in that database. So if you now go ahead and search for AKT, you will not get the weather of AKT. It will show you that what this particular listing was not found or invalid city name. Or you search for a city that, so for instance, let me show you. So if you come here now and you search for let's search for JJ. Search. Now, can you see invalid city name? Why? JJ is not a recognized city name in where? In open weather. Or do you know any city called JJ? No. Do you understand it now? That is why it should give you what? An error. Now, for you to get that error, you need to make sure that you use a particular error code called 404. 404 means what? Not found. That means if the response that you are getting here, if the status of the response that you are getting here is not found, what do you want? You want to display a particular message. Is it clear to you? All right. So you want to display a particular message that you have. Now, how do you do this? How do you do this? Very easy. You come here and you say what? If this particular response that are getting from the API, right? Okay. If the status of this response, no, let me just convert this. Okay, I think it's still connected. I think it's still connected. Okay, good. Now, just wait for it. It's not connected. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is that (404) that means if it is not, if response dot what status, right, equals 404, which is not found, right? What do I want? What I want is that what I want to what display that particular error. So I can now say error dot what error dot style, right? Dot style, sorry, dot style dot display should be what block. Do you understand? Please, is it clear to you? I don't want to like just. Am I communicating? Okay. Now, yes, yes. There's an error message that I let's check it. See, there's an error message I included here already. It's display of none. You understand? So we're going to set invalid name to block. So please, do we understand this? Is it clear to all? And you can put anything. So instead of start.display, you can have error.inner.html, invalid name. Hmm? We link it. We link it. But first of all, let us first of all just work on this. We link it. So now we now have our first error, which is what? Why is this thing hanging? All right. So now we have our error, right? Now we do not want the error to be there, like every time. We get to that place. We get to that place. So, but for now we have our error. Now, our else is now where we're not going to what? Get the JSON format of our data. Now, JSON is not only good for you, it's also good for your computer. Your computer will not understand the response if, how do I put this? Your computer will not understand the response if um, um, the format is not in JSON or it's not in the format I can understand. Your API is just like was just created. But for your API to be understood by you and even your computer, it has to be converted to what? To JSON format. That is why when I showed you this, you were able to understand what it is. Because this is what? What is this? What format is this? JSON. JavaScript object notation. It is a format that every programmer should understand. You understand it now? Now, if you come back here now, sorry. So if you come back here now, you have what? You do not have the JSON yet. You need to convert this particular response to what? To a JSON format. Or better still, you need to get this particular response as a JSON. So now we can come here and I can go ahead and say, let the data that I'm going to be getting, right, should be equal to what? This particular response dot what? JSON. So I can say what? I can say response dot what? JSON. You understand? But first of all, I need to also await it because you're also still getting it as the data. Don't forget, this particular response that is here is also awaiting a particular data that is being fetched. So you also need to await that particular response. Is it clear? Is it clear? Okay. Is it clear? Yes or no? A yes or a no will not hurt you. Is it clear? Hmm? What am I saying? It's clear. What am I saying? Explain it. I know people that said yes. So if it's not clear, better shout no now. Is it clear to you? Yes, explain. What is our weather data? Why no? Go ahead, now you're actually getting it. Go ahead. Okay, let me help you. The weather data right now is not the response that I'm getting. So now, now we're not getting this particular response now in JSON format, rather than just getting it as a response. Now, if I go ahead and I say console.log weather data, what are we going to be having? So let us check it out. So now if you check here, you should have some data here. Okay, I did not call it. I did not call out this thing. So let us call out our check weather. Check weather. I don't know why it's lagging, but let us just wait for it to come up. Hmm? No, we don't need to put anything yet. We're just checking out data. We have to. No, let me do it outside of this place. Control X. It's actually going to be this thing. It's going to be local. I mean, it should work this way. I don't know why it's not working. Okay, let's just leave it for now. I wanted to get console the this thing now. I wanted to log it out to the console before. But let's just leave it for now. Now, alternatively, we can just wrap this up in an event list now. We can say BTN, that's search BTN, right? You understand? Dot add event list now. Add event, event listener. Ah, you're going to listen for a what? A click event. You're going to listen for a click event, right? And then we're going to have our function. Equals to this. Now, in this function, I can just have my, let me just put this one inside of this place. Now, instead of having this here, I can just have city here as our parameter. Okay. Let's have city here. Then before city, I can just have my sync keyword I can remove this. Now, anytime I click on search BTN, this is what I can, but this is not how I want to do. Now, if you notice, when I was checking this, I did not have to press enter, or I did not have to click on search for it to happen, for it to work. I was using enter, it was working. So I wanted to show you how you can also have an event that also works for your keyboard. You understand? But for now, let us just leave it as this, as click. So but let me I don't want to be like, let's be like this first. So we'll test later, just 30 more minutes and 38 more minutes, and we have a lot to cover. So now let us leave this like this. So now I'm going to remove this, right? So we've been able to get convert this particular response to a JSON format via the weather data. Now, after doing that, all I have to do is I can now go ahead and so now we have our location here, right? Let us go ahead and get let us come here. Now, please look at it. Where exactly is the name of the this thing? Where exactly is the name of the let me search for Lagos so that everybody can see it. Lagos. So where exactly is the name of this what's the name? Where exactly is the name of the name of the city? Are you sure it's time zone? Time zone is an object value on its own. The name. I'm going to give you an expo. We already converted this data to what? JSON. That's the expo. No, this is not there. How are we going to access name? Something dot name. That response, right, was not what was converted to JSON. Weather data was what we converted. So we use weather data equals what? The response.json. So we converted the response data to what? JSON, and we stored it to what? To weather data. That means what are we going to get? I'm going to say weather data dot what? Dot name. Because weather data is now what has what? The JSON format of the data. Is it clear? So now I can easily come here now and I can say this particular location here that has location. I can come here, I can say location, right? Right? Dot inner HTML. Dot inner HTML equals to what? Weather data dot what? Dot name. Is that clear? Is it clear? Yes, that has because we need for us to be able to use this data that this response that we get here, we need to convert it to JSON. Weather data has now helped us what is now the was now converted the JSON format. So whenever we access weather data, we're accessing every single thing in the format. Now I've done the first one. The second one now is what is to get this particular what degree, which is this. Right? Now, if you also come here, where do you have degree? Where do you have your temperature? Temperature is on that way, main. So like we said, so main of 10. That's weather data dot what? Main dot temp. So now everything is not turned on weather data as the parent weather data dot what? Main dot what? Dot main dot temp. That's how we are going to get our article. So similarly, we are going to have the same thing. It's not going to be what? So I'm going to say deg dot what? Inner HTML equals to what? The degree, the unit. That's Celsius. So I'm going to have what? Weather data dot what? Dot main dot what? Temp. Do you understand? Then also we need to add what's the name? So I'm just going to wrap this up in this. So it's just going to show you this. We need to add the unit symbol. So we can just add it here. So I'm just going to plus degree Celsius. Plus, yeah, degree Celsius. You understand? So that it will have that degree Celsius. Let me show you something. In this place, do you see degree Celsius here? At the back. Meaning that what you're going to have is what? 31.6. It will never show you. So you are not asking to put that symbol yourself. Yes, of course. This one. Why are you putting them in the back? Should be the question. The question is, why are you using backticks? You can use backticks to add, but are you not still using this normal? The only time you use backticks is when you have additional functionality you want to give that string. But in this case, there's no additional functionality here. So, but you can use your normal strings. Of course, but I'm saying that it's not needed to use backticks. That's what I'm saying. You can use it, but it's not needed in this case. Now, if you check something here, right, this particular thing is 31.6, meaning that what? It is not a whole number. So, if you are checking any web application, you don't often see a decimal point, do you? So, we need to convert it to a whole number, making sure that, okay, if we have 31.6, the nearest whole number is what? 32. If it is 31.2, nearest whole number is what? 31. So automatically we have it rounded up. So we don't have 31.666666. You understand? We don't want it messy. Those 31. It does not care. Even if it's 31.9, as long as it's 31, to bring it down to the whole number. But map.round, rounding of a normal approximation, it's what round it up to the nearest whole number. So if you have 31.5, it is what? 32. 31.4 is what? 31. So we're going to what? We'll just round it up what? Math. So we can have what? Math dot what? Round. Do you get it? Is it clear? Anybody? All right, so we'll continue. So it is clear to us. Let us move on. Now, the next one is about humidity, right? So the same thing is still the same thing. We can just go ahead and say what? Where's our humidity? Is this it? So it should be count humidity now, right? It should be count humidity. Yes, count humidity. So let us just check it out. Humidity is here. It's also here. So we can just have count humidity, right? dot inner HTML. So we can say count humidity dot what inner HTML equals to what weather data dot main dot what humidity. Everybody understands this. Similarly, your wind speed. So we can have what count wind speed. So because what weather data dot wind dot speed. Now we have every single thing that we need. Let us go ahead and have our search input. So we can now go ahead and say so now we can now check whether where's your this is your search input, right? So we can have what search whether will now be what, so we can have search input dot value. Now we set we pass the parameter called city, right? Now in this place we're passing a parameter called what search input dot value, which means whatever value we search is now be our what our city. You understand? So let us wrap this up in an event listener. For now, I'm going to use that normal event listener. So we have what set BTN good. Let me just use this thing here. Dot add event listener set value. So now let us go ahead and check it out if any of our application is working at the moment. So I'll refresh. Now let us search for Lagos. Search. It's not working. Just a moment. Let us check our index.html and let's see what we are getting wrong. Our search BTN it's correct. Problem is it's not even giving me error. Yeah, I'll check it. It's not even giving me error. It's not looking like my system is connected. Hmm? Oh, yeah. That's not even an issue. It's just this. Yeah, it's not an issue. It's not really an error. It's not an error. So what is it saying? Element has no title. It's not. This one is not even there. That's not the issue. You just want me to put a type. That's not the issue. The issue is not from my HTML. Hmm? Actually, let me show you why it does not really matter. Let me put this app.js so you see. Now, can you see that that's not the issue? Scripts.js. They showed me something. I think the issue is probably from my API. The problem is probably from my API configuration. So let us check it out. It's working now. I see that was wrong. No, there's no error here. It's already working. 31 degrees Celsius. Humidity is a number itself. Humidity is like a name. That one will always be there. We'll get that. We'll get back to that one. Explain how later. So this one is something that we are going to like have to do ourselves. If you check here, did I put humidity here? No. Did I put wind speed here? No. Meaning it's inside our code, we are going to generate those texts. Now, Open Weather API does not provide the avenue for us to use wind speed as our name. Now, let us check the API. So now, in this place, do you see wind speed name? Do you see name here? No. Meaning that does not really show you the name of the wind speed. So you have to write that wind speed yourself. Now, for us to do that, we have to use what's the name? We have to use backticks to implement such functionality. So how are we going to do it? I'm not going to comment this one out. I'm going to comment this one out. I don't know why this thing is lagging. Actually, I know. So how are we now going to do it? Come to your this thing here. Can you see your sorry? Now, what I'm going to do is, you know what I've been thinking? I think we don't need this. I also think we don't need this. Don't worry, I'll show you. I explain it. This count wind speed, we don't need it. This wind speed, we don't need it. This humidity, we don't need it. This humidity, we don't need it. Now, what we are going to do is that they have their divs, which is what? Humidity. Right? They also have their wind, which is what? You have this particular humidity has its own humidity. Then inside of the class, you have the humidity and then what? The HUM. Now, what we are going to do is that we're not going to create it again with JavaScript. Right? So instead of having it in HTML, we'll create it with backticks. So what are we going to have? I'm going to bring in this class of what? Humidity. So I cannot say const. Okay, let us use it as what? Humidity. Right? But I'm not going to say HUM. I'm going to say dot what? Humidity. You understand? Why are we doing this? Because, first of all, Open Weather API does not provide us with a name for humidity. We need to be the one to create this humidity name ourselves. You understand? So also same thing with what? With wind speed. The only thing they provide us with is what? Is the wind speed count. And then the humidity count. But we don't want that. What do we want? We want to be able to what? Show both the humidity count and then the humidity name. Both the what? Wind speed count and then the wind speed name. So that users know, okay, this is wind speed, this is humidity. You understand? So we have to recreate that ourselves. So now in this place, we call it in this thing. Call it in fact. Let me just show you it. So we have what humidity equals for document of code selector humidity. Then we are going to have what wind speed also. The same thing in this wind speed. Now, instead of as wind speed, we're going to have what? Dot what? Wind. See it, wind. Now, it is now inside of these classes we're going to create our elements. So instead of creating these two elements with HTML, we'll now create those two elements with what? JavaScript. That's what I'm saying. Instead of using these two elements from HTML and bringing it here, we'll now create these two elements inside of our JavaScript backticks. How are we going to do it? Now, first things first, I'm going to say humidity dot what? Inner HTML, right? So we now have our what? Our backticks. Now, instead of our backticks, we're going to have like a div. You understand? That's the first one. Now, in this div, we'll now give it a class. sorry, a class. The class will now be equal to what? What's the name here? Let's give it an ID instead. Let us just create a div that has. Okay, let us just give it span. So we have the first span tag. Now, this span tag, I'm just going to copy this span tag again and paste inside of that place. Then similarly, I'm going to copy this span tag also. Where does it, we have what humidity here, right? It's not what whether dot what main dot humidity. Do you understand it now? So you now come here and now say weather data, right? Dot what main dot what humidity. You get, so now you're going to automatically have the same design. Since JavaScript already reads that, okay, you've created a design for this in what? In your CSS. So you don't need to recreate it again. Similarly, in this place, now you cannot go ahead and write what? Humidity yourself. You understand? Now, let us come here and let us try. So if I search for Lagos now, you're going to see what? Humidity here, 61. Do you understand? You understand why I have to do it this way? The CSS, this thing already. So, and I already created the what's the name? The ID here. So as long as I'm using the same ID here, it automatically takes the same design. Yes. So your wind speed should have, what's your wind speed? I think your humidity, what's your humidity? I think is it percentage? Percentage, right? So you can just go ahead and put the percentage at it's percentage. Yes. So you can go ahead and put the percentage at the back here, right? So yes. So it is wind speed that is yeah, it's a what's the meter per second. So you can check this one. You can, the same thing for your what's the name? For your wind speed again, you do the same thing. So you can have the same thing. You can have say wind speed, right? Dot inner HTML. Same thing. Just need to thank God I think I use wind speed. They're giving me the listen. I don't want to rewrite it again. See it. So now, as you can see, we have what wind speed, weather data dot wind dot speed. The same thing. So if you come back here now and you search for Lagos, you should have what? Search. So you now have what? 31 degrees Celsius, Lagos, then humidity, and then you have what? The wind speed here. Is it clear to you now? You're okay now. All right. So we are going to check for Benin. And let us see if that's imagine increase. You see that this place is not. So it increased. Yes, now it's what? So it's not as good. So let's check for Kano. That's what I'm saying. So you have Kano. We search for Kano. You don't search. Kano is not as hot as Benin. No, the thing about North is that the thing about this is the thing about North is that it's extreme. You see how thing increase that North is extreme. Let us check Zaria. No, I think it's Zaria that was there. Zaria. Zaria has also gone up. You understand? Check it out. Expired. That's why it has increased. It was on 31, 32 before. No, Abuja is cool now. Abuja is not hot. I'll just be like, Abuja also is hot. 36.
Anything that change just out that
it's extreme.
Just like that. It is cold.
It's extreme. That's like it is. Everywhere is extreme.
Shocked.
I see. You are complaining for Benin. Just always be cold in periods like this.
Take myself.
Okay, are you from Bayelsa?
I don't come for myself.
So as you can see, because I said I am exploding. Please let me spell Bayelsa. Yes, now. So as you can see, Bayelsa is invalid. Now let us check Yenagoa. Yenagoa. So Yenagoa is there. I don't know. Probably is a spelling. Let us check Bayelsa.
I don't come for Bayelsa.
So as you can see, but now this invalid is still there. We don't want it. I mean, do you want it there? No. Since you don't want it there, we have to wrap it up in a set timeout function. So we'll give it a set timeout so we can say
I don't say
Good. Search. So you should have invalid city name.
No, just one.
Doesn't matter. If I search for Nigeria, it's going to work. Edo State is popular. I think it depends on how popular the list is. So Bayelsa is. Let's check Anambra. So Anambra is there. Edo is an ancient this. Apart from that, Edo State is one of the longest, let's say longest, one of the oldest kingdoms in Nigeria. They also have Ibadan also. But also was like a big kingdom. Like Oyo was very, very. Do you know that Benue at the moment? Like I think Benin, they are from Oyo. The Benin people currently, their major land was from Oyo. When I say Benin, not Nigerian, other country, Benin or Benin. Yes, something like that. They are from the spelling. They call them Nupe people, Nupe. So they fought for their own independence from Oyo. So Oyo is like a big name. Eh? No, it's not good. That one is even different. Like check the history. You understand? Eh? But the thing is that the reason I'm saying this is that Open Weather API is the same thing. It's the same reason why. So there's a reason why. Sorry, can everybody there's a reason why the Lagos that you are seeing here. Just chill. The Lagos that you are seeing here is where? It's from where? No. This Lagos is from where? Nigeria. This particular Lagos that you are seeing here is from Nigeria. There's a reason why you cannot get Portugal Lagos here. Why? Automatically, open weather does not have an account for Portugal Lagos. But you know the irony here? The irony is that this particular Lagos, our own Lagos, was named after that Lagos. I'm not going into this. Let's leave that. Let's leave that. It was in Nigeria also at some point we had Portuguese. Portuguese actually colonized us also. Yeah, Portuguese and British. So and the slave trades that time, especially in Badagry, right? People that are coming there was basically Portuguese, but they are really interested in this trade. So the Lagos that we have here, Lagos became like the center of like they call them Eko before. Yoruba is Eko. So they became like the center of what's the name of the slave trade and a lot of marketplace stuff in Nigeria. So the Portuguese people were like they named it after Lagos. You can check it out. You understand? So my BS code. Okay. So now I've given it my error code. Right? The next thing is to work on this event listener. So now we've done the first one, which is click. The next one is what key down. Now key down. Now on key down, that when you press a particular key down. So if you are pressing a key, are you pressing the key down or you are leaving it? You understand? So now there's an event listener called on key down. Or whenever a particular key is down, what do you want for that key? Understand what I'm trying to say? Good. The first event is click, right? Whenever you click on something. Now I want to have another event that says what? Whenever you have your search input. So we're going to have search input of what? Add event listener. We're going to listen for the search input. We're going to say add event listener. Now when you have what? Key down. So I'm going to say key down. Key up is now when you now press it and you release it. When you release it, something should happen. That's key up. Key down is when you press it, something should happen. Key up is you press something, you now want to release it. If you release something, it comes up now. That's key up. You can research your own thing. And I've tried. So you're going to have an event parameter, then you're going to have this. Now, what are we going to have? We're going to you understand? Is it clear? It's not clear. I said key down. Key down. Whenever you press a key down, it's English now. It's English. Whenever you press a key, okay, wait, if you press a key now, will the key go up or down? Yeah? Or to move to the side? Down now. You understand the event now. But you're just trying to like understand which kind of event is this. Again, you have numerous events, a lot of events. So on key down is the HTML attribute. But right now, you're using what add event listener was key down. Whenever you press the key down, so what do you want? You want to say if that particular event, if that event dot key, that's if the key equals what? Your enter key. You understand? Enter. What do you want? You want to have what? This particular check whether set input value. Right? And also you want to what? Clear the set input. Yes. What am I saying? I'm saying that. Let me show you. After you search, you clear them. But you want it to be there. We'll put it there. We'll put it there. We'll put it there, don't worry. Set input of value equals to empty string. Now we'll come here also and then we'll do the same thing. So we'll put it there now. Set input of value Can you see it? Set. And so you have set input of value. Now, if you check this place, right? If you put anything now, you press enter. Okay. Control R. Sorry. Let's refresh. There's something wrong with this thing. Okay, let us try it again. Enter. So as you can see, after pressing enter, can you see Lagos now? Are we happy now? And you see everything clear, are we? Good. So that's it. So if you try London also, search. Can you see that it's also cleared? London is 13 degrees Celsius. That's where I stay. So so let us check Wales. Okay, Tokyo.
Tokyo.
So looks like I've turned you to your so if you want to go to Paris, Abby. You don't want to go to Paris. Just go and stretch your leg. I like that. So like that, we've come to the end of now. I want to add. One more thing is that I'm coming. One more thing that I want to add is that now on Mac or MacBook, their enter is not enter. The enter is what? Return. So you need to also what? Write it for MacBook. So in case it is what? Also on MacBook, you can say or. You can now add or if event, right? Or e dot what? Key. Equals what? Return. You understand? Sorry, capital R. Return. Do you get it now? So you can use enter or you can use what? Return. Depending on Mac.
When you see API.
Open weather. Oh, you were not here. Hey, just go to Open Weather API. Register an account. So once you register an account, you should have. Sorry, let me just show you. Okay. No, I will not see this thing where. I don't like it's my machine. I don't know why you're splitting your screen and be writing codes. How? So if you go to Open Weather, you should see something like this after you've logged in. So if you logged in, you should see your API. They'll show you API. Now you go to your API. No, not this one. You should see API key. I'm trying to look for it. I can't see it.
Yeah, that.
Okay, now can I see my API keys? You can click on it. Then just go ahead, API keys. Generate it, then go to API and copy the API link. Then you can do the same thing as this. You get? All right. So on that note, we come to the end of today's. Sorry, we come to the end of our front-end class. It's been nice.